Alas! The Reckoning. Waves in Reverse. Chapter 1. Introduction. The illusion unveiled. Introduction. In a world where information is at our fingertips, it is paradoxical that the truth is often shrouded in secrecy and manipulation. This book, alas, The Reckoning. Waves in Reverse, aims to peel back the layers of deception crafted by the global elite, those who wield immense power and influence over various spheres of human endeavor. From the food we consume to the governance structures that dictate our lives, the threads of control are intricately woven, often hidden in plain sight. A compelling story. In 2008, the world witnessed a financial catastrophe that reverberated across continents, plunging millions into unemployment and poverty. The housing market crash in the United States, triggered by subprime mortgage lending and predatory banking practices, exposed the fragility of the global financial system. Yet, as the dust settled, it became evident that the very architects of this disaster, the top executives of major banks and financial institutions, emerged unscathed, even profiting from the bailout packages funded by taxpayers. This glaring disparity is just one example of the pervasive deceptions orchestrated by the elite, revealing a pattern that demands scrutiny and understanding. Historical background. The concept of an elite class manipulating societal structures for their gain is not new. Throughout history, power has often been concentrated in the hands of a few, who use their influence to shape policies and narratives. From the ancient empires where royalty and nobility controlled vast resources, to the Industrial Revolution where magnates and monopolists dictated economic terms, the elite have always found ways to maintain and expand their power. In the modern era, this control has become more sophisticated and less visible. The establishment of central banks, the creation of multinational corporations, and the rise of media conglomerates have provided the elite with new tools to influence global affairs. The Bretton Woods Conference of 1944, which established the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank, set the stage for a new economic order, one that ostensibly promoted global stability but also entrenched the power of a select few. Case studies and evidence. To understand the depth of these deceptions, we must look at specific instances where the elite have manipulated systems to their advantage. The 2008 financial crisis is a prime example. Investigations revealed that major financial institutions engaged in risky lending practices, bundling subprime mortgages into complex financial instruments that were then sold to investors. When the housing bubble burst, these instruments became toxic assets, leading to a cascade of bankruptcies and bailouts. Similarly, the food industry has seen its share of manipulations. The Monsanto case, where the company aggressively marketed genetically modified seeds and herbicides like Roundup, highlights how corporate interests can override public health concerns. Despite mounting evidence linking glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup, to cancer, Monsanto used its influence to shape regulatory policies and suppress adverse research findings. Impact on society. The impact of these deceptions is profound and far-reaching. Economically, the manipulation of financial systems exacerbates inequality, creating a wealth gap that stifles social mobility and fosters discontent. The health implications of corporate malfeasance, as seen in the Monsanto case, put millions at risk, often disproportionately affecting vulnerable populations. Politically, the concentration of power undermines democratic processes. Lobbying by powerful corporations and interest groups skews policies in their favor, marginalizing the needs and voices of ordinary citizens. This erosion of trust in public institutions fuels apathy and cynicism, weakening the very foundations of democracy. Recognizing economic deceptions. To protect ourselves from these deceptions, it is crucial to recognize the signs. Pay attention to patterns of financial crises and who benefits from them. Question the narratives presented by mainstream media, especially when they align too closely with corporate interests. Look for red flags such as conflicts of interest, lack of transparency, and suppression of dissenting voices. Understanding the tactics used by the elite, such as regulatory capture, where industries control the agencies meant to regulate them, or revolving doors between corporate executives and government officials, can help us see through the facade. By staying informed and critically analyzing the information we receive, we can better safeguard our interests. Conclusion. Alas, The Reckoning. Waves in Reverse is a call to action, urging readers to delve deeper into the systems that govern our lives. By unveiling the illusions crafted by the global elite, this book aims to empower individuals with the knowledge and tools needed to recognize and resist these deceptions. The journey ahead is challenging, but awareness is the first step towards reclaiming agency and fostering a more equitable society. In the chapters that follow, we will explore various domains, economic, political, environmental, and more, where elite deception prevails. Through thorough research, fact-based analysis, and engaging storytelling, we will illuminate the hidden machinations that shape our world and offer practical advice on how to navigate and challenge these manipulations. Stay vigilant, question assumptions, and join us in unraveling the waves of deception that continue to ripple through our lives. Chapter 2. Historical Context. Seeds of Control. Introduction. In the vast and complex tapestry of human history, the threads of power and control have often been woven by a select few. The rise of the global elite is not a modern phenomenon but a continuation of a pattern established over centuries. Understanding the historical context of how power structures were created and manipulated is crucial to grasping the full scope of contemporary deceptions. This chapter delves into the origins and evolution of these power structures, setting the stage for the elaborate schemes that define our present era. The birth of power structures. The consolidation of power has been a defining feature of human societies since the dawn of civilization. From the ancient empires of Mesopotamia and Egypt to the feudal kingdoms of medieval Europe, rulers and elites have always sought ways to control resources, influence policy, and maintain their dominance. One of the earliest examples of systemic control can be traced back to the Sumerian civilization around 3000 BCE. The Sumerians developed one of the first bureaucratic systems, with a priestly class that not only dictated religious practices but also controlled economic and political affairs. This intertwining of spiritual and temporal power laid the groundwork for future power structures. Fast forward to the Roman Empire, where the concept of centralized control reached new heights. The Roman legal system, military conquests, and intricate network of roads facilitated an unprecedented level of administrative efficiency and control over vast territories. The Roman elite, comprising senators and wealthy landowners, wielded significant influence, often at the expense of the common people. The fall of Rome did not dismantle these power structures but rather transformed them, leading to the rise of feudalism in Europe. Feudalism and the rise of monarchies. Feudalism, which dominated Europe from the 9th to the 15th century, was characterized by a rigid hierarchy where the king granted land to nobles in exchange for military service. This system entrenched the power of the nobility in the monarchy, creating a socio-economic divide that persists in various forms to this day. The Magna Carta of 1215, often celebrated as a milestone in the development of modern democracy, was, in reality, a negotiation between the English king and his barons to preserve their privileges. While it introduced the idea of legal rights, it primarily served to protect the interests of the elite. The Renaissance and the subsequent age of exploration further expanded the reach of European monarchies. The discovery of the New World and the establishment of colonies provided unprecedented wealth and resources, solidifying the power of European elites. The transatlantic slave trade, driven by the demand for labor in the colonies, exemplifies the ruthless exploitation that accompanied this era of expansion. The Industrial Revolution and the birth of modern capitalism. The Industrial Revolution of the 18th and 19th centuries marked a significant shift in the structure of power. The rise of industrialists and financiers created a new class of elites who wielded economic power through the control of factories, railways, and banks. Figures like John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie became synonymous with wealth and influence, their fortunes built on monopolistic practices and the exploitation of labor. The creation of central banks, beginning with the establishment of the Bank of England in 1694, further centralized economic control. Central banks were designed to manage national economies and stabilize currencies, but they also concentrated financial power in the hands of a few. The Federal Reserve System, established in the United States in 1913, epitomized this trend, its policies often reflecting the interests of major banks and financial institutions. The 20th century. Wars, treaties, and global institutions. The 20th century saw the consolidation of global power structures through wars, treaties, and the creation of international institutions. The two world wars reshaped national boundaries and political alliances, with the elite playing pivotal roles in both conflicts. The Bretton Woods Conference of 1944 established the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank, institutions designed to promote global economic stability and development. However, these institutions have often been criticized for perpetuating economic dependencies and favoring the interests of wealthy nations and corporations. The formation of the United Nations in 1945 aimed to foster international cooperation and prevent future conflicts. While the UN has achieved significant successes, its structure, particularly the Security Council, reflects the power dynamics of the post-war world, with the victors of World War II holding permanent seats and veto power. Case studies and evidence to illustrate the evolution of elite control. Consider the Rothschild banking dynasty, which rose to prominence in the 18th and 19th centuries. By establishing a network of banks across Europe, the Rothschilds wielded immense influence over European politics and economics. Their ability to finance wars and negotiate with monarchs exemplifies the intersection of financial and political power. Another case study is the influence of multinational corporations in the 20th and 21st centuries. Companies like Monsanto, which have dominated the agricultural sector, exemplify how corporate interests can shape policies and impact global food security. Monsanto's aggressive marketing of genetically modified organisms, GMOs, and its legal battles to protect its patents reveal the depth of corporate influence over regulatory frameworks. Impact on society. The historical manipulation of power structures has had profound and lasting impacts on society. Economic inequality, social stratification, and political disenfranchisement are direct consequences of these entrenched systems. The legacy of colonialism, for instance, continues to affect former colonies, with many struggling to overcome economic dependencies and social divisions imposed during the colonial era. In contemporary times, the concentration of wealth among a small elite exacerbates social tensions and undermines democratic processes. The influence of money in politics, particularly in the United States, where campaign finance laws allow for significant corporate contributions, distorts policy making and erodes public trust in government institutions. Recognizing historical patterns. Understanding the historical context of elite control helps in recognizing contemporary patterns of manipulation. Key indicators include the consolidation of economic power, the influence of money in politics, and the creation of regulatory frameworks that favor elite interests. Awareness of these patterns empowers individuals to critically assess current events and policies. Conclusion. The seeds of control sown throughout history have grown into the complex and pervasive power structures that shape our world today. By examining the historical context of these structures, we gain insight into the methods and motivations of the global elite. Alas, The Reckoning, Waves in Reverse, seeks to uncover these deceptions and equip readers with the knowledge to recognize and resist them. In the chapters that follow, we will delve deeper into specific domains, revealing the intricate web of control and offering strategies for reclaiming agency and fostering a more just society. Chapter 3. The Manipulation of Information. Introduction. In an age where information is more accessible than ever, the lines between truth and manipulation have become increasingly blurred. Media, education, and technology, which should ideally empower and enlighten, are often wielded by the elite as tools for control. This chapter explores the pervasive influence of these institutions and how they shape public perception through misinformation and propaganda. A compelling story. Consider the case of the Iraq War in 2003. The U.S. government, with the backing of major media outlets, convinced the public that Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction, WMDs, and posed an imminent threat. Despite later revelations that these claims were unfounded, the war proceeded, leading to significant loss of life and geopolitical instability. This incident exemplifies how misinformation can be used to justify profound and far-reaching actions. Historical background. The manipulation of information is not a new phenomenon. Propaganda has been used throughout history to sway public opinion and consolidate power. During World War I, both the Allied and Central Powers employed propaganda to demonize the enemy and boost morale at home. The advent of mass media in the 20th century, including radio and television, provided new avenues for disseminating information and misinformation on an unprecedented scale. In the 1930s, Joseph Goebbels, the Minister of Propaganda in Nazi Germany, famously stated, "If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it." This chilling assertion underpinned the Nazi regime's use of media to control the narrative and manipulate the German populace. Case studies and evidence media control in contemporary times. The consolidation of media ownership has further concentrated the power to shape public perception. 6 corporations, Comcast, Disney, AT&T, Viacom-CBS, Sony, and Fox, control approximately 90% of the media in the United States. This concentration allows for a uniform narrative that often reflects the interests of the elite rather than the diversity of public opinion. For instance, the 2016 presidential election in the United States highlighted the media's role in shaping political narratives. Studies have shown that mainstream media gave disproportionate coverage to certain candidates while marginalizing others, thereby influencing public perception and voter behavior. The phenomenon of fake news and the spread of misinformation on social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter further complicated the information landscape. The education system is another crucial area where manipulation occurs. Textbooks and curricula are often influenced by political and ideological biases. For example, in Texas, the State Board of Education has been known to push for the inclusion of conservative perspectives in history textbooks, downplaying the role of slavery in the Civil War and emphasizing the contributions of Christian leaders in American history. This manipulation extends to higher education, where funding from corporations and wealthy donors can influence research agendas and academic freedom. A notable example is the funding provided by the Koch brothers to various universities in the United States, often with strings attached that align with their libertarian ideologies. Technology and social media technology, particularly the rise of social media, has transformed how information is disseminated and consumed. Platforms like Facebook, Google, and Twitter use algorithms designed to maximize user engagement, often at the expense of factual accuracy. These algorithms create echo chambers, where users are primarily exposed to information that reinforces their existing beliefs. The Cambridge Analytica scandal in 2018 exposed how data harvested from millions of Facebook users was used to create targeted political advertisements, influencing elections in the United States and the United Kingdom. This case underscored the potential for technology to be used in sophisticated and covert ways to manipulate public opinion. Impact on society. The manipulation of information has profound implications for society. It erodes trust in institutions, polarizes communities, and undermines democratic processes. When the public cannot distinguish between fact and fiction, it becomes difficult to make informed decisions, whether in the voting booth, the marketplace, or everyday life. A striking example is the anti-vaccine movement, which gained momentum through misinformation spread online. Despite overwhelming scientific evidence supporting the safety and efficacy of vaccines, misinformation has led to a resurgence of preventable diseases, endangering public health. Recognizing information manipulation. To protect oneself from manipulation, it is essential to develop media literacy and critical thinking skills. Here are some practical tips. Diversify information sources. Relying on a single source of news increases the risk of bias. Seek information from a variety of reputable sources. Verify facts. Cross-check information with credible fact-checking organizations. Be skeptical of sensational headlines and unverified claims. Understand algorithms. Be aware of how social media algorithms influence the content you see. Follow a diverse range of accounts to counteract echo chambers. Question motives. Consider who benefits from the information being presented. Investigate the sources and potential biases behind news stories and educational content. Conclusion. The manipulation of information through media, education, and technology is a powerful tool for the global elite. By understanding the historical context and contemporary examples of this manipulation, readers can better recognize and resist these deceptions. Alas, The Reckoning, Waves in Reverse, aims to empower individuals with the knowledge and skills needed to navigate an increasingly complex information landscape. In the chapters that follow, we will continue to uncover the intricate web of control exerted by the elite, offering strategies for reclaiming our agency and fostering a more informed and just society.